Alright, welcome back. In this video we're going to get started on the saving feature for this game. This technique can be used in any project that you might have going on, so if you're not following along with this entire series, the information in this video might still be relevant for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is get a new object placed into the game. So over here in our project panel, open up our object types folder. And if you're following along in the series, we have this input folder here, where we have a few objects that are typically used for user input. So I'm going to right click on that input folder and add a new object type. On this first row here, we have one called local storage, and that is going to be the one we're using. And you see it added it to our folder. I'm going to go ahead and close that up. We don't need it for this video. Just a quick run through of what the local storage object is and does. I will consult the Construct 3 manual, which can be found at construct.net. It explains that the local storage plugin can store data locally on the user's device. For example, it can be used to store a personal best high score. In our game, using this will store some of the information that will help save your place in the game, but it will store it to the device it is being played on. So if you're playing it on a phone or a tablet or a laptop or your desktop computer, it's going to save that information to whichever one of those you're playing on. So if I play this game on my desktop and I beat all the way up to level 3, and then I have an exported version on my phone that I can play, and I go open it up, I'm going to start from the beginning because my saved game information is on my desktop and not my phone. So that's what local storage means. And one more thing, down here it says local storage uses a simple storage system. Values are stored under named keys, and they give the example of the value of 100 could be stored under a key named score. So we're going to be using keys just like we did with our audio. We'll create our own keys and then we will tell those keys which information to store. That information will sit in those keys on your device's memory. And then we'll set it up to where when the game is opened up, maybe a day or two later, it will look for those keys and it'll take the information stored in those keys and load it back into the game. So back in Construct 3, I am going to open up a couple of event sheets. And those event sheets are going to be the map and the title. So I'm going to explain the workflow here for our game. In our map event sheet, this is where the majority of our variables change, and our variables store all the important information in our game. For example, in our map level group here, our level playing variable is changed each time we tap to go into a different level. And it would be useful to store this information to tell our game what level we're on should we quit out of the game and come back to it later. Our unlock levels, we use the level unlock variable. And in our level unlock and our levels crowned earn, we use our level playing variable and our array. The array is where we store a few more pieces of information. So we'll be keeping track of all of these pieces of information that we have stored in these variables. And because most of this takes place, or most of the change takes place on the map event sheet, it would make sense to wait until the player has come back to the map sheet and then save and store all that information into our keys that we're going to create. So if we start the game up and we're on the title screen, we press play, it sends us straight to the map. We tap on level 1, we go through level 1, let's say we beat it, we come back to the map. It'll send us back to the map before we play level 2. So when we come back to the map, all of these variables will be adjusted accordingly. Our map event sheet is kind of the center of our game. Whether we go to play a level or try to exit back out of the game, we always end up passing through the map. So that would be the ideal place to record all of our information. Once we save that information, we have to have a place that makes sense to load all the information back into the game. Well, we start at the title screen, and we can either quit out of the title screen, which would take us out of the game completely, or we press play. Those are our only two options, and play sends us to the map. So we want it to happen before we get to the map. So the only place that we could put it is going to be in our title. So that's a pretty basic run through of the workflow that our game and our code is going to go through to save all the information. So now we can just set up what information we want to save. Now, as I said before, anytime we come back to the map, that's when I want to start saving all that information. So in our initialize map group is where we're going to set up our save system. So I'm going to start adding all of our actions to this onStart of layout event. But for readability and organization, I'm going to add a comment right here after this action, and then we'll put all our save game code underneath it. And I want it to be consistent with the other comments we've made in the game so far. So I'm just going to copy a comment from somewhere else in the game. And I think we can find one in functions and in our options menu. This one right here, you see how this is indented and it's in the actions? This is the one I want. So I'm going to highlight that, Control C to copy, and then I'll close that back up. Go back to map, and with this one highlighted, if I paste here, it'll paste it below whatever I have highlighted. So Control V to paste, and if we click out of it, you can see we have the black background and the bright yellow text, or at least I do. I like a deep, sharp contrast. So I'm going to double click to edit this, and I'm just going to type in save all game progress. So let's go ahead and add an action below that and go into our input folder and grab that local storage object. And the action we want is going to be set item. Okay, next, here's where we create a key for what we want this to save. The key can be anything we want it to be. So I'm going to name these something real simple that we can reference later on. The first thing I'm going to set up is what level we're on. I'll just call this save layout. And each one of these keys, I'm going to start with save in lowercase, and then I'll capitalize the first word of whatever it is we're saving. So the value, it prompts us with two quotation marks here. Up here in our key has to be in between two quotation marks. But the value, I'm going to erase those, and I'm going to use our current layout variable. So there's our current layout variable. And if you remember, we set this up to reference which layout we are currently on. And this variable was used in several different event sheets. I'm going to go ahead and click done. We use the current layout variable in our controls event sheet, in our player death system. We also used it in the objects event sheet for collecting the diamond. Each time we ended a level, whether it was dying or passing, we stored that information in the current layout variable. Okay, let's add another one. So add action, input, local storage. We want to set item. And this one in between two quotation marks, I'm going to call this one save level. And the value is going to be the level playing. Let's hit done. And our level playing is down here in our map level group. Each time we tap on a level, we set our level playing to that level's number. Okay, let's add another one. Go to input, local storage, set item. This one is going to be save unlock, and the value for that is going to be the level unlock variable. And that one I think is probably pretty self-explanatory in our unlock levels group. Let's go ahead and add another one. Input, local storage, set item. This one I'm going to call save array. So the value for this one is not a variable, but the information that is stored in our array. And to save information in an array, we have to save it in something that the Construct3 game engine can read. And since Construct3 is JavaScript, we're going to use a JSON file to store the information in the array, and then the array later on can read the information from the JSON file. This isn't as difficult as it sounds, so I'm going to start off by getting our array object, and that was called AR_crowns earned, and then I'll put a dot, and the very first thing that shows up is as JSON. So we want our array object AR_crowns earned dot as JSON, and that will access that information. I'm going to hit done. So just a little bit more information on that. If we ask what is JSON, it stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It's a lightweight format for storing and transporting data, and often used when data is sent from a server to a web page. And down here in their example, they use an array, which is pretty common because it's a little bit more complex group of information instead of just a simple line of code. Hopefully I did some justice in explaining that. If it doesn't make sense to you and you want to know more, my suggestion would to just search JSON or what is JSON or Construct3 arrays. There's a lot of good information out there, but it will take some reading to really grasp the full concept of what's happening here. Okay, let's go ahead and add another action. Go to our input, get our local storage again, set item, and this one we're going to save the position of the flag marker on our map. And the reason we want to save that information is so our screen knows where to center on when we come back to a saved game. The key, I'm going to call this save flag X, and our value is going to be flag X variable. I'm going to hit enter and add an action. Go to input, local storage, set item, and this key is going to be save flag Y, and that value will be flag Y. These 6 pieces of information will keep our place throughout the game. No matter how much or how little the user plays it, it will save the correct information that will get us up to speed next time we open the game. Now that we have everything saved, we need to go find a place to load it. And we discussed the menu title. So it's going to be somewhat the same idea here, where on the map, as soon as we get to the map, I want this to take place. So over here, we have an onStartOfLayout event, but I want our save feature or our load game feature to be its own group. So we're going to actually have 2 onStartOfLayout events on this event sheet. Add an event, go to System and onStartOfLayout, and then we can add an action, go into Input and grab that local storage object. We want to retrieve the information that's on the device's local storage. Now there's a few more steps involved in getting the data and getting it loaded than there is to just save it. The first thing we need to do is check if the item exists. So hit next, and now it asks us to enter the key that we want to check if it exists. So in between quotation marks, the same way we have it spelled out on our map event sheet, I'm going to type out that first key, which was save layout. Okay, I'm going to hit done, and then I'm going to add another event, and we're going to go into that input folder, get that local storage again. Up here, our first step was to check if save layout exists. Now we want to confirm that it exists. So on item exists is triggered after check item exists, find something in the storage under that key. And that key is going to be save layout. So now we can add an action and back into our input local storage. We check to see if it exists. It does exist. Now we want to get the item. Okay, hit next. And that key is going to be save layout. And then we can add one more event, input local storage, once we have got the item. So on item get, hit next, and that item is going to be save layout. We got the item, add an action. This time we're going to go into system, set the value, and the value is going to be the variable that we had associated with our save layout, which was current layout, using an expression, and that is local storage and then dot item value. And this just tells construct 3 to get the value stored in the local storage and put it into this variable. Okay, so that is the save system. We save it over here on the map. It's in our storage on our computer, and then we start the game over. We check to see if that information exists. If it does, we get it. Once we get it, we change the value of that variable. I'm going to do a little organization now. So I'm going to right click, add a group, and I'm going to call this one check saved data. Then I'm going to add another group, and I'm going to call this one current layout. For my check save data group, I'm going to put our on start of layout event, just highlight it and drag it in to that group. And then these other two are specific to our save layout. So they're going to go in our current layout group. I'm going to close those up for just a second, and I'm going to create another group. And I'm going to call this load game. And I'm going to take both of these groups. I'm going to put them in the load game group. Okay, I'm going to right click and add another group. Call this one level playing. And right click, add another group. Call this one level unlock. I'll add another group. This one will be crowns earned. And one more. We'll call this one flag position. I'm going to highlight these last four that we created and move them up to where they're indented, but only indented once. And that will put them in this load game group. Let's finish checking all of our saved data. So in our on start of layout event here, I'm going to add another action. Go to input, local storage, and we're going to check item exists. And that next key is going to be save level. And then I'll add another action, input, local storage, check item. This one will be save unlock. Do it again. And this one will be our save array. And again. This one will be save flag X. And then I'm just going to Control C to copy and Control V to paste and go into this second one and change that X to a Y. So we should have these 6 actions that check to see if all of these that we set, we're going to make sure that they exist in our local storage. So we already did current layout. Let's go to level playing, add an event, input, local storage, and on item exists. And that item is save level. Is that right? Yeah, save level. Then we will add an action, input, local storage. Once we have confirmed it exists, we want to get that item, save level. And then we'll add another event. Input local storage on item get. Once we have obtained that information of saved level or save level, and our action to that once we have it is to set the variable. So system, we want to set the value for our save level was our level playing variable. And that value is going to be local storage. dot item value. All right, I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit there. So we can go into our level unlock group, add an event, grab our local storage. Once we can confirm that our item does exist. So for the level unlock, the key is save unlock. And we'll add the action. We'll get the item of save unlock. Add another event to this group. Grab that local storage again. And once we get the item of save unlock, add an action, go to system, and set the value of level unlock is our variable there, and that is to local storage dot item value. Okay, only 2 more left to go. We're going to do the same thing here to get it started. So add an event, local storage, on item exists, and this one is save array, and then we'll go get the item of save array. Then we'll add another event, on item get, save array. This one's going to be a little different than these up here because we need to access our array information. And if you remember, we saved our array information to a JSON file. So we need to access that JSON file here. So add an action. Let's go into our input and grab our array object, and then we'll scroll down to JSON and we'll load. Hit next, but we are going to get it from the same place. So we can erase those quotation marks and just type in local storage dot item value. All right, and then down in our flag position, input local storage, on item exists. That's going to be save flag X, and add an action, input local storage, get item of save flag X. Then we'll add another event, input local storage, on item get of save flag X, and our action will be system set value of flag X to local storage dot item value. Highlight both of these, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. We're going to change these two to reference the Y. Double click on this first one here, change that X to a Y, and make sure we change the key X to a Y. Same thing down here. Our key to save flag Y. It looks like I misspelled it up here, so I'm going to change that. That should be flag X. That looks right. Make sure everything's spelled correctly. And then our last one right here, double click to go in, and we'll change flag X to flag Y. Yours should look something similar to this, or however you have it named and laid out. So I'm going to close these groups up. And now we have a nice little save game and load game system. So let's go ahead and test this out. I'm going to go to level 1. My player layer is unlocked. I'm going to grab my player spawner, move it up to here. In our levels, in our layouts, we should have some templates set up. And I believe, yeah, we set up a couple of little, just a short little level so that we had something there. Level 3 should be the same thing. And we just copied the template over. So we have some levels. And I actually thought of something. If we go back to the map, we're going to have an issue here. Everything that happens in this initialize map group is going to be read first because the code starts from the top and it just reads left to right, top to bottom. All of this will be set before it gets down here, which is the code that changes the variables and gives them new values once we pass a level. So what I want to do is add a short little wait time so that it starts running through this code, but it's going to get to right about here and it's going to wait before it runs this. So in our onStart of layout, I'm going to add an action, go to System, Wait, and I'm just going to do 0.3. And then I'm going to slide that up here. I'm actually going to go above touch active. So for that 0.3 seconds, our touch isn't even going to be able to deliver any kind of input. Very short wait time. All these variables will get updated, and then 0.3 seconds later, we'll save them. Let's go ahead and test our game. So we're going to want to start from the beginning. So we want to preview the project. I'm going to maximize this. I'll push play. And we have level 1 ready for us. And I have it set up like this so that it doesn't take us very long to get through these levels, because we just want to test what's going on. Okay, I'll hit next. Level 2 is open. We'll go into level 2. And we will beat the level. We'll hit next. Our level 3 is ready. I'll go ahead and go through level 3. There we go. Okay, I'm going to hit next. So now level 4 is unlocked. We haven't played it yet, which is why the flag marker is there and there's no crowns. And I'm going to quit out of the game. So the game is no longer open. We have quit out of it, and I'm going to go back and preview the project from the very beginning. Back at our title screen, and when it takes us to the map, we have all of our stats are still kept because we only had 2 crowns on level 1, 3 on 2 and 3, and then our map marker was on level 4 and we were zoomed right to it. So all of our information is being saved. And I will show you one other little thing. If I were to play just from level 1, I'll show you. And we'll go ahead and collect our diamond, beat the level, go next. And now we lost all of our information. And that's because when I played level 1, the game went into level 1. When I passed it, the next place we went was the map, and it ran this code. Well, all these variables started from scratch, from the beginning of the game, because we never went to the title screen. That's why we put all of this information on the title screen. So whenever we export it as a game, our user will always go to the title screen first, because that's how we have it set up. So if you're testing, and you test from anywhere other than where your load game information is set, it's going to reset everything back to default. Even if we go back and preview project from the very beginning, our variables have already been stored at their default values, so we no longer have a saved game. So keep that in mind while you're testing. This wraps up a pretty simple save system, but it's very functional. The user does not have to do anything to save the game. It automatically saves your progress as you pass each level. And we are almost done with this entire project. Starting with the next video, we're going to start setting up a level 2. I will see you in the next video, and as always, don't forget to save.